Yeah. It's on. Everything's going. And they're motivated.
I don't know. It's right. It's actually the first choice. You know, that's what
I think you're.
Yeah. You're firing all the time. I heard you. There was something. You feel good? Really? Okay, you're grinding.
I'm sure.
You're here.
All my friends
I'm trying to save you a seat.
No, they got me like chatting, like, yeah, like.
So the selling. I'll give it to him.
Oh my gosh, good. Okay, I didn't do that. I tried to be technical. That's literally the first time I ever tried to do that. And we're behind.
So funny.
Should I like get up here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do wide angle.
And I also mistake all the time, so it's probably gonna be
It's all good. All right, try again.
You are shaking. All the time. I was dropping.
All right, thank you for participating.
My cousin. My hearts, yeah.
And Adrian, did you already tell everybody?
No, I just know.
Okay,
Just
perfect.
passing out that.
We have a full room today, some new to the training room faces, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
So for those of you who have not been to a KW Education Tuesday, in front of you is a 10-5-1-1. This is to help you organize all the thoughts and the notes that you're going to be taking today. So I know Sinjin's going to be dropping a lot of value and a lot of tips for you. So it's going to help you break down your notes to your top 10 takeaways. From there, you're going to choose your top 5 things you want to implement. And then you're going to break that down to the one thing that you're going to focus on implementing first. Because when you try to implement all the things, we get overwhelmed and then we implement nothing. And then you're going to pick your first to do within the next 24 hours. There's studies out there that show if you do nothing in the next 24 hours, you're extremely less likely to do anything at all. So this is just to help you not just get educated today, but if you don't implement, it's just entertainment. So that's what this is for. And without further ado, Sinjin is going to walk us through one of his actual listing presentations. I am a seller today, and I've got some hard objections to throw his way. I might make him sweat a little bit. Just kidding. It's to help you understand how to work through a real situation and how Sinjin, he's not gonna be a salesperson today. Well, the one thing that I do want you to notice is how he's just having a conversation with me, and as the seller, helping me self-discover what's truly the best move for me and my family.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah. And just to give a little background before, we jump into this presentation is whenever I would say I started taking a decent bit of, listing appointments, I sat down with Drew, who has helped me a lot, and there's so much support here all the time, which is one of the reasons I love AW. But the one thing, she went and chatted me on a listing appointment. I'll be honest, presenting this listing presentation to all of you is a little nerve-wracking, to say the least, because there's a lot of experience and there's a lot of talent in this room, and I'm very humbled to be sitting here doing this. So I remember sitting in that listing appointment, and when we walked out, she looked at me and she's like, "Who was that in there?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "That wasn't you." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to be like the listing agent." She's like, "Just be yourself," right? And that was some of the most important guidance or advice that I ever got from anyone really in this industry, is when you sit down with someone that I found that people typically want to work with people that they can connect with, that they like, and that they trust. So every time I sit down and I have a listing appointment with anyone, whether it's my best friend from elementary school or someone that I've never met before, all those appointments look different. My listing presentation and what I go over is simply a guide for me to be able to come back to and kind of keep a cadence and some, similarities to every appointment that I go on, but it's custom tailored to the individual that I'm sitting down with. And there's really 3 or 4 things that I'm always hitting, no matter the presentation. We might have an hour-long presentation, or you might roll in there and conversations flowing, you just feel the connection, and you're like, bit, these are the things that you need to know about our process, and then we're able to move on to next steps. So the one thing that I would just encourage you to do is just recognize that don't be a robot, when you're sitting down. I'm sure a lot of you aren't, but also I'm always setting expectations for them, like what they can expect when they work with the team and how we work and how I work and what my boundaries are. I always want to have a really deep understanding of what their concerns are, what their fears are, what they're excited about, their motivation, because I think that's what makes everyone do something is, what's this going to do for you and your family at the end of the day? How is this going to enrich your life? And then also just any previous experience that they may have had, good, bad, or indifferent, because that's going to allow me to really dive into my presentation and make sure I highlight the things that they're thinking and maybe handle any objections ahead of time that they might come up with.
Real quickly, say that again. So what's this gonna do for your family? What previous experiences? And the note you made just before that was?
It's like concerns or any fears that they have or what they're excited about. Because honestly, a lot of times that's where you're gonna be able to solve for them and not miss it. And what I found too, Britt said she's gonna hit me with some objections. If you do a really good job of pre-screening the appointments that you go on and having really deep conversations, you're normally able to uncover objections ahead of time. Like if I'm getting objections at the end of my presentation, that's usually a reflection of me and the job that I didn't do. Like if they're coming at me with fee or this or that, that means that I didn't articulate my value enough, or I missed something that was really important to them that I should have covered before it even got to that point. So I would just really encourage you to go deep on those qualifying conversations. And then as we go into this, you'll just see how I try to be myself, right? Connect with them, we'll have a good relationship. And I've been to some coaching where they're like, you need to sell. And I'm like, that's just not me. Like I'm South Central PA, like we're friends here. You know what I mean? I want to be in a relationship with you before I sell anything. So that's that.
I appreciate that. And I'll just add, because I got to shadow as an agent under Sinjin. So I have a little inside scoop, if you will. But the one thing that I appreciate too is with the pre-qualifying questions, and he mentioned earlier, he's got a pretty hefty listing presentation guide. Knowing what your seller cares about helps you know what pages to not address in your listing presentation. Like if they don't care about marketing, if that is not their fear, don't sit there and talk to them about the 100 postcards that you're gonna send out. Like, you know what to also skip, which can save you time, because I'll never forget the first listing appointment I had as a client. I wasn't licensed yet. and the realtor was there 3 hours. And my husband and I at the time, like by the time we were done, we were so bored. And we were like, I never want to be in a room with this person
Yeah.
again.
It's time to get you out of here.
Yeah, I was like, just leave.
They're gonna talk you to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I, keep that in mind too.
Yeah, so, and Brittany did mention, we do have like a lot of information that we go prepared with. And that's just so that, like, when we come to the property, we feel like we have a really good idea of what we're walking into, that we have that background, so that build rapport, and that's always what I'm trying to do. Just to, again, in line with what this listing presentation is, typically what I'll do when I get to a house, and I'm sure a lot of people do the same thing, is I'll get there, I'll have looked online, I'll definitely have checked Zillow value, because every homeowner knows there's Zillow value, and I need to know if I need to prepare for one conversation or another. I'll definitely do a radius or a school district or a township search of recent sales, because most people are pretty in tune with what's going on. And if they're bringing up a property, I want to be able to talk to them a little bit, so I'll do due diligence there. And then we start off, I'll usually ask to sit my things down at a table, because I want to bring the conversation back there. And we'll just start with a tour of the property. So normally it's some people really love their homes and you have to like usher them through. Other people are just like, you take me on a tour. So it depends on that. But during that time, I am always trying to connect, highlight things that are great about the house, and really understand through their eyes, like what are things that they're really proud of. And what that does for me on the back end is, whenever I typically do what's called a two-step listing approach, so I'll work on valuation and pricing afterwards. That's going to allow me to speak to those things whenever I do my analysis. Whether or not they add value is one thing, but I'm at least gonna talk about the things that they're proud of, and I don't wanna say make it seem like they're valuable, but there's just an art form to making sure that you're addressing the things that they are really proud of when you talk about value. Or making sure that you can explain why something doesn't carry as much value as they think whenever you're going over these conversations. So this is really gonna focus on the listing presentation specifically, but there's a lot of just kind of over encompassing things that go on around the whole approach that I think are important just to kind of note there. If that makes sense. Cool, all right. All right,
And I'm taking notes too, so I can
Great.
ask some questions at the end.
awesome. So at this point, we would sit down and I would just, I'd probably start off by saying, hey, thank you so much, Brittany, for taking us on a tour of your property. I can see why you're excited to move. It's a ton of space. I know the pool, it's provided enjoyment, the land itself, I'm sure it's been fun to watch your girls run around, but I also know how nice it is not to have to worry about cutting the grass and taking care of things like that. I'm really excited to go over just what we can do for you to help you achieve your goals. Before we jump into that, I have a whole bunch of information here to go over with you today.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you and, if Ben were here, you and Ben are really concerned about or excited about when it comes to the process of selling your home, or just what it looks like to move from this property to the next property that you're building? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have 2 kids and 2 dogs. 2 dogs that I love almost just as much as my kids. So I have a huge fear of showings because they're little and they escape very easily. So my fear is, if I can't get home, to remove the dogs from the home every single time there's a showing, which is ideally what I'd like to do, but I also know that's unrealistic, is the dogs getting out. And also frequency of showings, because like I said, I have 2 kids, so ages 8 and 11. One is nice and organized and the other one, not so much.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's probably 2 of my biggest concerns, is just being show ready and what to do with it.
Yeah, and I can completely understand that. I mean, sometimes whenever your house goes on the market, you feel like you can have this one slot of activity and you're trying to juggle a work life, your children, your dog. So that makes complete sense that would be something in the back of your mind. Is there anything else that is just giving you a little anxiety about this process as you move forward to your next?
The process of moving from this home to the next, selling this one in a timely fashion, so that way it's closed and ready to go for the next purchase, and yet not so far apart that I have to move twice.
Gotcha. So making the transition as easy as possible. It's always fun talking about easy transitions when you're moving your household
Right.
to another place.
It seems daunting.
Yes,
Yeah.
it seems a little bit overwhelming, but that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else that I want to make sure that I really touch on that to give you peace of mind? Is there anything else?
Nope, those are the two things that I can think of right now.
Wonderful. Well, we'll make sure that we go over showings and how that works and how we can make it as easy for you and your family, your kids and your dogs, and then also what that transition looks like and what your options are and how can we achieve that? And make it as smooth as possible, ideally. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Great. So with our listing presentation, what I'd like to go over with you is just how our team works, because we use a team approach whenever we sell properties. What you can expect from us in terms of marketing, what it looks like to go on the market and what that experience is like. Then once we go under contract, what negotiations look like, and then the portion of contract and close, which is when we make sure that everything's met in a timely manner. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. So this is Dave Hunt.
Never.
Yeah, so this is Dave, this is the owner of our company, and I'm gonna spare you a lot of like the background of our company, but we would talk a little bit about who we are. And this is a great opportunity for you to give a little background about who you are if you're going through that. It's a little bit about Keller Williams of Central PA. We love being a part of Keller Williams of Central PA. They have a ton of brand recognition. The environment at Keller Williams is very collaborative. We work together a lot and we're excited to work together. So just know that whenever you hire our team, you're also going to be hiring a few hundred other agents that are going to be looking and helping sell your property at a high level. Okay, so it's just something, a lot of people look at real estate agents as dog eat dog. And I just think it's so amazing when you can go to work and actually grow as a company. And that's something that we're really proud of. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love it.
So our passion on our team is just to enrich lives. What we've realized in real estate is enriching lives can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Sometimes when we sit down and we talk with clients, it's a very sad time. And yet this is going to help them get closure. And other times it's an exciting time. They're looking to move to live out their life dream and whatever that looks like. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that as we work with you, we're putting you in a position to do that. And believe it or not, sometimes working with us isn't the best thing for you, and we'll hopefully have another option that might suit you better. Okay?
Okay.
So we are very passionate about keeping our culture protected, and here are a couple of our core values, which you can look at and review and, you know. One thing that's very important for you to understand is whenever you do work with us as a team, you're going to be working with primarily two different people. You're going to be working with myself as the lead listing agent, and then you're also going to have someone helping you on the back end, and that's a transaction coordinator. And her name is JD, okay? Now, JD, she'll handle a lot of things. Like I said, she'll handle pictures, she'll handle photography, she'll make sure that you're informed through contract to close. And she's readily available to you throughout the week. Her hours of operation are between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And I often encourage anyone that I work with, if you have an urgent need right away, she's a great person to call, because oftentimes I'm sitting down, I'm talking with clients that are thinking about making a move, and I'm not gonna pick up my phone and take a call when I'm here talking to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. And then for myself as a listing agent, my hours are a little bit more broad, as you can imagine. But I also have 4 kids and I have a wife, and they like it when I spend time with them. So I try and resemble some sort of a work-life balance. So typically, my hours of operation are between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then on Saturdays, I work from 10 to 2, okay?
Okay.
Now, as you can imagine, like, Sinjin, what if I get an offer on my house after that hour, you know? I understand what my job is and what the requirements are. So if there's a pressing matter or a time-sensitive situation, I'll make sure to be in touch with you as soon as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. So that's really key for me, is setting my boundaries. Like, just first and foremost, I really like to establish, like, that we can be on the same page.
And I think for all the independent agents in the room, when he's talking about his team, you might be thinking, well, I don't have a team, I'm an independent agent. Your team is whoever your transaction coordinator is. Chris is like.
Precision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but if you have a TC, this is a great time to explain to them. So there's like a little introduction. If you can talk about your preferred lender that you usually work with, if it's a buyer, or the title company that you look like, you have a team of people.
Mhm.
So it's helpful to kind of showcase them so they understand that there's a team helping them throughout this process.
If a team approach is like your thing.
Yeah,
If it's not, that's great. But I still think it's very important to try and set some boundaries for yourself. Because, you know, it can just be a never ending cycle if you don't. And that's something that I've really instilled in my business. If you've heard my voicemail, it says it, you have to constantly train people over and over again to respect that rule. But it's amazing when you get the first phone call that says, hey, I'm so sorry. I know this is outside of when you normally work, but I just had this question. Because it's a sign of respect, and it feels really good to say, hey, no worries, I just had a moment, I want to connect with you and solve that, so it's just a great thing. Next, I just want to introduce you to what our roles are and how we do it at a high level, and truly our goal is to put you at the middle of the transaction. I realized about myself, I'm really not good with the paperwork. It's just not my strong suit. The things that I'm passionate about as an agent are making sure that I'm talking to as many people as possible about the property that you're selling. So outward prospecting is something that I'll do at a high level for you. Communication is something that I hold really highly. I know in a big transaction, it's very important to communicate at that level with you. I also want to help you set a value for your home that you feel comfortable with. And you understand why it is that, and you're going to say yes or no. I'll give you the parameters in which I think is realistic based on the data that I see, but I want to empower you to make a decision that's good for you and your family. And then negotiation, that's something that I'll do as a listing agent that's really critical, just to make sure that you're empowered to make the best decision for you and Ben. My goal is not to make a decision for you, it's to give you all the opportunities that are out there, the positives and the negatives of each decision, and make sure that you have a thorough understanding for the steps that you're taking moving forward.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Great. And then our transaction coordinator does a ton of work. She'll, at the beginning, she'll make sure all the documents are prepared for you and put online properly. We'll have pictures scheduled and those will be out there. And then on the back end, once you go under contract, we'll make sure that all the agreements are in place, that inspections, if there are any, are scheduled and happen in a timely manner. The appraisal is taken care of, we collect the earnest money deposit, and also that, you know, we tell you when to change over your utilities, when to call your insurance company, we'll set up closing. We'll take care of all those nuts and bolts so you can focus on what matters most, which is transitioning from one home to the next. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Wonderful. So, as you'll see, I am abbreviating a little bit of this for you just because of the audience, but I mean, I hope you're getting the gist of where I'm at. So we always put 16 critical questions that you should ask any realtor that you interview. And I think it's always smart if you want to interview other agents, but we always suggest that you ask these questions just so that you make sure you have a full picture of what's going on. Now, when we go to market your home, we are going to utilize this special tool called the MLS. Okay?
Never heard of
Yes,
that.
yeah. So, the multi-list is a service that we as real estate agents use to promote your property to all the real estate agents in a tri-state area, maybe even a little bit further at this point. And what that does is put your property in front of as many qualified buyers as possible. These are people that have raised their hand, hired an agent that has access to this multi-list, and have asked for properties that are similar to yours.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it goes to like Zillow.
Yes, and then from there, you do know a little bit.
A little bit.
Yes, it goes to Zillow. An aside, the reason that I talk about all this little stuff is one time I lost a listing to someone that put a lockbox on the door. And at that point, I was like, I really need to explain and articulate a lot of my value, because if you miss those little things, people put you one or the other. So don't underestimate the power of what's included in our subscriptions, right? If you can put someone in front of 40,000 square miles of active buyers into one of the fastest growing counties in Pennsylvania, it's a powerful thing. And someone that hasn't sold a home for 10 years, hearing that, it's like, yeah, I would want an agent to do that for me. Thank you. So
Right.
just don't underestimate the power of the little things that happen automatically on the back end that we take for granted every day, right? Like me saying the MLS, everyone's like, haha, that's funny. But to someone that doesn't know about the MLS, that's a pretty amazing tool that we have access to. So just keep in mind those little things that you can incorporate in your presentation that will have a bigger impact than you realize.
Do you know, real quick, as you show me the pages, could you show the rent?
Yes.
So sorry, I
No.
didn't think about this until just now.
So we always start off, we always rep the brokerage because we think Keller Williams is the best brokerage in all the land, and we want to like love on everyone here. And
Very true.
we also have a program that we utilize. It's called an off-market listing program that we're able to share with our brokerage. And we want them to know that it's a valuable tool for them because they have access to all these agents that do a lot of business. We talked about our team. There's multiple ways that you can do that. And I can't explain enough how important office hours and availability are. That's something that we always rock out. We expand our team, right? Obviously, there's no pictures in there because there's variable people. There's multiple people. And we have this guy I really hate, like this caricature of a man with 6 arms. we just try and explain the difference between someone that's trying to do it all. It can be overwhelming at times. I remember, and I tell this story, when I was an independent agent, I felt like I was juggling everything. And that's where someone like Chris comes into play, or just having support in the back end to take some of that off is so valuable and allows you to truly focus on the client and what their needs and concerns are.
I wonder if you could use that image if you don't have a team in a way to describe why it's important for you to have boundaries and balance.
Mm.
Because do you want the agent that's on the border of a mental breakdown because they don't take any time off, they're doing all the things on their own? Or do you want the agent that knows when they have to hit the reset button, take a breather? So that way they're always coming back to you cool, calm, and collected and negotiating in the best interest on your behalf with a clear head.
Yeah. And you know, it's so funny you say that because a lot of times in the hours of operation, I'll say it's very important for me to, you know, rest and recharge so that I can come to you with a clear mind. You don't want me running on 18 hours of sleep and trying to help you negotiate one of the biggest deals of your life. And a lot of people, if you relate it to things like that, will typically, and as I like go through this with Brittany, I'm like, does that make sense? And I'm trying to get like buy-in. I'm like, yeah, you like, does that make sense? Yeah. I'm like trying to get that, not selling, but I want you to, I'm trying to uncover any questions and objections as we're going through it. So that at the end, I feel like, man, you just hit that out of the park. And then she's like taking me back to page 2. Let's talk about that again. So that's why I'm always kind of trying to ask that question. And then we just have a simple explanation of Bright and just what it looks like to them. And this to me is very much a prop. It's like an item of value. You know, in our folder, we include, I'm sure a lot of people do, just the tax record, the aerial view of their property from, you know, the GIS mapping system. There are so many like free resources out there that are valuable. I love aerial photography. And if I was a homeowner that never saw an aerial view of my home and the surrounding neighbors, I'd be like, it's fascinating stuff. And like, it would have me intrigued. And I think sometimes we can look at this and like, oh my gosh, it's so much paper, but to someone that's talking about selling their largest asset or one of their largest assets, all this stuff matters because it's their thing, right? And they want to know that you did some due diligence, that you poured into that. So having that information ready so you can turn it when you start and say, are your taxes right? Like I pulled all this information. Is this your deed? Is this what your property kind of looks like? And being able to go over that stuff with them just helps build trust that you know you're there showing up for their property. Okay. So I think this is probably one of the most important parts of the presentation. It's, you know, our approach to selling homes, and I'm sure it's a lot of your approach to selling homes, but it's something that we always go over. And this is where we really get into the nuts and bolts, like what are your concerns? What are you excited about? And past experience. So the first thing that we always do is we analyze what's most important to you. The second thing that we're going to do is talk about the best way to prepare your home. Third thing we're going to go over is just marketing and what it looks like whenever we promote your property to as many people as possible. Fourth, we're going to give an overview of what negotiations can look like and feel like and some of the tools and tactics that we use to try and uncover people's motivation and maybe give you a leg up so that you can make informed decisions. And then fifth, I'm just going to make sure that you don't have any other questions and you feel good about the process. And if all that makes sense, we can talk about what next steps look like. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Awesome. So with this move, we talked briefly just yesterday, you know, as we were at the office, and you had just said legitimately about your move. You're excited that you didn't have all the lawn work to take care of, that you were backing up to the park, but it wasn't your responsibility. And, you know, there's going to be, you don't have a park in your backyard and your girls always want to go to other parks anyway. What else is really important to you about just this move and what it's going to do for you and your family?
For us, it's all about, you know, when we're off of work, Ben and I work a lot and we love, it's our passion.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that when we're off of work, we're spending time with our kids and not mowing, cleaning the pool that we only got to use 5 times last summer, cleaning half the house that we actually don't even use. So it's really about energy management and like getting time back to do the things that we actually love to do versus spending time just maintenance.
I love it. So you want to focus on what matters the most to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So taking, you know, being able to sell this house and downsizing is going to free up a lot of time for you to put energy into your children and your family and experiences rather than the maintenance and upkeep of a home that you don't utilize.
Exactly.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I bet you're excited.
We're very
I
excited.
bet you are. Now is this, I'm sorry I didn't ask before, is this the first home that you've ever sold? Have you done this in the past?
I have done this in the past,
Mhm.
but this is the first time that I'm selling with Ben, so this is
Yeah.
his first experience.
Right.
And also, this is, you know, a family home, so I bought this house for my parents.
Mhm.
So there's some emotion behind it, because
Mhm.
I moved around my whole life, and this is the longest place that I've ever been able to consider.
Yeah, that's huge. How's that feel?
It's a little nerve wracking.
Yeah,
It's emotional.
I bet, and it's always exciting when you're thinking about going to the next place in life, and yet it's always nice to be grateful for
For
what
you
everything
had,
was, yeah,
For sure.
for sure. The first time that you sold a home, obviously it wasn't with Ben, was there anything that was really great about that process? Was there anything that, you know, wasn't that great that you wish you could change?
Yeah, so first home, my dog did get out, so that was a real
Okay.
life experience.
That's where that's
So
rooted.
that's where that
Okay.
fear comes from. And then, it was a long process. So I had, Kaylin was a baby. So it was just like packing up all the things to get her out of the house. Some showings we had plenty of notice for, and then some showings we didn't have as much notice, but of course we wanted to let them get in, because like, what if that's the buyer? So it was just, for me, I'm a naturally anxious person, so there was a lot of anxiety about just the in and out of the home with kids and the dog.
Again, a lot of those things are just out of your control by nature. There's some control you can have, but it's hard whenever you give up control to people that you don't know to manage those things, and then worst case, the dog does get out.
Truly.
The worst.
Yeah.
The worst. Well, we're gonna talk about some ways that we may be able to control some of that and give you more peace of mind around what's happening and going. I will promise you, it's not a perfect world. We're gonna do our best to keep the dog locked up or with you in your car, and I don't anticipate anything like that happening. But I've also realized just from doing this and helping a lot of families that strange things happen. So the biggest thing that I'll just ask from you as we work towards your goal is, you know, if something does come up that was unexpected, or, you know, it might feel a little tight at times, let's just give each other some generous assumptions and work together to solve them.
That
And
sounds fair.
I can promise that we'll work our best to give you the best experience possible, okay? Great, so thank you so much for sharing that, Brittany. It's just really helpful for me to understand where your fears come from, what you're excited about, and where the emotions lie, because it is a big thing when you're selling a house, especially a family home that you build a lot of memories in, and where you're moving, you're gonna build a lot more memories. So this just helps give clarity to me to be able to help guide you the best.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so now the next thing is always, it's one of those things that sometimes I don't have a lot of input or say, sometimes I have a lot of input and say, and it goes around what we do to prepare your home for sale. So in some cases, I'll sit down with people and I'll say, hey, there's about 3 different people that I sit down with if I was to boil it down. One person says, I don't want to do anything to this house. I want to sell it as is. I don't want to I feel like I've done a really good job maintaining this property. It's about the best that it's going to be for me, and I'm ready to put it to market. And that's okay. The other person that I meet with says, hey, give me a list of all the contractors that you have. It makes sense for me. I want to do it, and I want to try and get the biggest bang for my buck whenever we sell this property. And then I have folks that meet somewhere in the middle. They say, hey, I'll spend a few $1,000s, and with that money, I'd like to make my home more saleable and put it in the best condition possible to maximize my goals. Where would you say you fall in that?
Probably, you know, a combination of 1 and 2, like.
Yep.
We've put a lot into the home, so I'm not excited to do more work, and with the 2 kids, that can be a challenge. And yet, if you tell me, if we're walking through the house and you're like, Britt, Kinsley's hot pink bedroom is not gonna fly, like, I'll bite the bullet if you really believe that that's gonna make a difference than selling it for more money.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. And, you know, as we walk through, you have done a tremendous job, you know, addressing a lot of the things, and the new deck is beautiful that you put on here, and that's way better than that old deck that I saw on social media. I'm so glad you did that, because it was scary.
It was dangerous.
Yeah, it was a little dangerous. We wouldn't want to have showings there. So you've done a great job, and there are some things that I will just highlight to you to take care of, but it seems like you're really realistic in what your goals are and also what you're willing to do. Curb appeal is one of the biggest things that we always focus on, first impression as you walk up to the house. Believe it or not, a lot of people make their decision yes or no there. So once we're done, we'll go over a checklist of things that I'd like to have you address if you're up for it, just so that we can present your house in the best light. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Perfect. Next, we're gonna talk about what we do to market your home. And the biggest thing, whenever it comes to marketing, here's some pictures of the.
Really from like kindergarten.
Yeah, no, it's how. So when it comes to marketing, properties, we actually have a couple different programs that we utilize, with the team. One is a guaranteed offer program, and just based on what your goals are, I don't think that that's gonna be the best fit for you. That's for somebody that says time is so much more important than money, like money isn't even in our mindset right now. We've had an illness or some life event that's happened that's just put us in a tough spot. The other program that we might pull some pieces out of is our elite program, but we typically save that for $1 million plus listings, and that just has some things in it that we realize we need to utilize to showcase those homes. But I feel like the perfect program for you is this premium program that we have, and it fits what your goals are perfectly. And that starts, as you can imagine, with putting a for sale sign in the yard and putting it on the MLS. And what we found is, that's where a lot of our competition frankly will stop, and they'll sit back and they'll wait for the phone to ring. And what we've realized is there's things that you can do, to just be more proactive in trying to attract buyers to your property, okay? So what we do, what we always do is, one of the biggest things that I like to highlight is throughout the days of the week, we're always prospecting to potential buyers and also to potential sellers. Because what we found is whenever we're connecting with as many people as we can at a high level, we're uncovering needs that didn't exist otherwise. And what we think happens there is we may be able to find someone that's looking for a house just like yours. So we will always actively look for people that are looking to buy a home like yours, okay? We also, and so let me just break from this real quick because I think everyone's marketing program is gonna be a little bit different. So I don't necessarily want to get like in the weeds of unless you think that's valuable, our marketing program versus like,
We can ask the room.
let's go, rock it out, yeah.
You got it.
Okay, cool. All right, well. So whenever we list a house, we will often use multiple signs that sit in front of the property, right? And whenever we put those signs out there, you'll have, the traditional for sale sign sits perpendicular to the road so that when someone drives up, they're gonna be drawn, oh my gosh, there's a house for sale. But then we'll also hang two other signs on that property. One is an information sign and the other is an open house sign. Now, I'm sure you might think that that's a little bit of overkill, but believe it or not, there's science behind this. People actually look to seek out information in different ways. So what we found by having these different types of signs is if it were me looking at a for sale sign, I'd call the sign with the picture of a person on it, because I want to talk to a person. But there are people out there that don't necessarily want to be on the phone with someone, they just want some general information about the property, so they'll typically call that information sign. And then other people are just like, get me inside that house. So they'll call that open house 24/7 sign. That doesn't mean I'm sitting here every day having an open house. But what it tends to mean is that, hey, the sellers are motivated. And if you're a qualified buyer, we can get you into the home within 24 hours. Okay, so each one of those signs has a different number. And that's so that we can track what's working and what's not working and what's not working. But our goal there is to drive people to your property through that different signage. All those numbers will come to our team before we're scheduling an appointment at your house. We're qualifying them on the phone, making sure they're able to buy your property and making sure that they're motivated and their time frame matches yours. Because we don't want to ask you to remove your children, to get the dogs all out of the house, just for someone to say we can't buy for 6 months. That's not helping anybody. So we're trying to drive that traffic, create a big funnel of people that are interested in your property so that we can then qualify them. If they are qualified, we'll open the door for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's key scripting for all of you around qualifying the buyers before they get into the house. At KW, it's your listing your lead. So you have that, like you can honestly say if somebody calls you as the listing agent, that you can ensure that the buyers are qualified before they go in their home. And that will ease a lot of that stress of having to go their home with people that, like Sinjin said, you can't even purchase it. That's a huge item of value that doesn't cost you anything. But
And just one little trick that we found that's really helpful, because oftentimes if people call, they're like, I want to see the house, right? That's typically the verbiage that I want to go see the house. What we found sometimes is that you try and hammer them with qualifying questions right off the jump. Their guard goes up and they're like, I want to go somewhere else. I just want what I want, right? So we'll often follow this cadence of give them what they want. So if they want an appointment, it's like, great, let's get that scheduled tentatively. I'm still going to need to confirm it with the seller, even if the house is vacant, the seller still wants to know, right? So we always give them what they want, and then, hey, real quick before I let you go, let me ask you a couple questions so that I can come best prepared for that. And what we found in that approach is that rather than they're like, oh, I want to see the house, and you completely just railroad that question, like, Berm, didn't hear that, are you pre-approved, what has you interested in this house, what's your timeline, all that, they're satisfied because they're like, okay, I was heard, I had my need taken care of, I'm gonna see the thing. Great, now can you give me a couple, like, I just need a couple more questions answered for you so I can be really well prepared to help you out with this. And we found that you get a lot better results from potential buyers if that's like the format of the conversation. And I'm sure you all are doing that, but I didn't for the longest time, and it was like, why is this person so harsh? So, yeah, it was just a helpful kind of switch in that script. Another thing that we like to do whenever, so open houses are something that we'll gladly do if it's something that you would like, Britt. The biggest thing I would advise you is that the one thing that we're not able to do at open houses is qualify those potential buyers until they're at the door and oftentimes in the house. A lot of people I sit down with say, hey, I really don't want an open house. I don't want my neighbors coming in, and that's completely all right. I just want you to know it's something that can be made available if you feel like it's something that you'd like to see.
Okay.
Okay. We do.
Pause.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, which is fine.
Yeah.
Sounds like you are subtly talking her out of doing an open house and you're not actually on the Day of Hope team interested in doing open house.
So that's not true. Personally, whenever I was doing, it was very hard for me to like realistically do open houses at a lot of listings. I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. So subtly, I would explain maybe the negative impact of open houses. And then if it was something that they really wanted, I would see if someone on the team had the bandwidth. We also have something though within the team that has, it's called an open house lever that people can pull, and they do open houses at a high level to try and find buyer clients. And if I know someone's operating under that, I will push more for open houses because I want to facilitate opportunity. So again, this is where it aligns with your business. I've sat down with many people that are convinced open houses sell homes. Have a lot of people sold a house at an open house? Anyone?
Yeah.
Nice,
Absolutely not.
couple,
Yes.
and it happens.
Yeah.
But I just know personally, it doesn't always work for me. And again, I'm trying to set, and I'm not saying this is the way to do it, right? This is just how I do it. Because some days I want to spend with my kids. And that's where I want to be. And if a client really wants that, we can do a happy hour open house or figure it out. But yeah, you probably caught my undertone there. It's like,
It was good.
I'm not really gonna be the open house guy. But it works.
You can script in a way that's best for you and your business. So if open houses are a lead generation
It's
pillar,
good.
then you might say, Brittany, in your situation, I understand that one of your fears is your dog getting out. Would it be helpful if we held an open house to try to get as many buyers through your house at one time? So that way you only have to worry about one time block to get the dogs and the kids and the house clean. So if that was like your lead gen pillar, you would just word it differently to try to, in their best interest, the open house makes sense. But if you're like, there ain't no way I'm doing an open house and I don't have people I can call, which by the way, in Keller Williams, you have about 220 agents just in our brokerage that can have their hands raised to host an open house for you. It's something that we can do. And help another agent lead generate for their business while providing a service to your seller if they want it. So just know if you personally don't want to host an open house, we do have agents in the brokerage. I would love to host one for you to get that experience. So just what you say and how you say matters. So know what you want the outcome to be, and then you know how to say or how to address the seller's concerns.
Which to that point, it seems like I missed a really good opportunity there to address one of Brittany's concerns potentially by having a solution to one of her problems, which I would provide other solutions in here, and yet that is a really good item of value. And that is why it's so important to ask questions. What's important to you in this process? What are you concerned about? Because then your brain is going to, like Brittany's brain just went to that as like a solution. And as a great listing agent would, it's like, where can I, in my process, that I don't need to change my thing, solve that thing and make it the thing that's gonna make her hire me? So just right there, like that scripting alone, like, hey, great news, open houses for your concern around like your dogs getting out and scheduling with kids and you have been busy careers. We can schedule a few huge open houses early on so that you know when you will be out of the house and we can drive a ton of traffic to your property to ideally get a buyer ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about 20 showings throughout the week.
Hey, Sinjin,
Right.
she had brought those concerns up very early in the interview
Mhm.
process, but you didn't feel the need to address those at that time.
So I don't wanna go off of like, I don't wanna go off of my rhythm. I could have solved right there. But I personally, and again, this is just how I've always kind of incorporated it, as I get to it in my presentation, I'll come back to that. So coming up, there's some things about showing time and structuring how we allow showings to happen at the house. We could talk about off-market listing program if she wasn't quite ready and that would give her a little bit more control. That's when I'll incorporate, hey, you had mentioned that one of your concerns was scheduling. You felt like, I think she said some showings happen really quickly and some I wasn't aware of, where we can dive deeper into how showing time works and the parameters that you can set on that. And would it be a benefit if we just had certain windows for you and your family because you're so busy to really funnel those showings into? So I think you could probably address them right there if you wanted to. I always, in my mind, make a mental note, and if there's a lot of lists, like there's a long list, I might even just get out like a piece of paper and pen and just actively write them down so she knows I'm listening, and then address them as I go through. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So that's my approach. Is it right? Is it wrong? The other thing I'll say is losing appointments is really good if you call and say, what did where could I have done better? What did I not do that made you hire another agent? So I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you address them if you're gonna ask about them. There were two that she had brought up. It was the showings, the dogs, her kids, and then also just what does that transition look like? Going from a house that she already has into new construction. So there's a section about negotiations where I would bring up, and you had also mentioned one of your concerns was, what's that transition gonna feel like for us? And I would probably then get into the negotiations and what the different options that she might have are and how we could angle at certain things and what the positives of that may be and what the negatives of that may be, and just make sure that she understands what she's opting into. But I personally try and align it with where I'm at in here, because the way my brain works, if I start talking about that up front, I'll just be like a squirrel probably. And then I'll be, who knows what. Yeah.
I wonder too, like, could a potential script, and Julie, I'm gonna look towards you, like, in the beginning, could it be, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm gonna go over our process with you, and as I go over this process with you, I'm gonna make sure I highlight the parts of the process where I can help you solve those problems.
Hmm.
You probably have a better way to word.
No, I think that's great, and I think the one thing I just heard.
And maybe
from
you did.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah,
He did
look
say
at that. So yeah, preemptively, like,
I encourage everyone to do this because I'm loving this feedback.
I wrote it down.
I love it. Yeah,
Well, we-
so I like that.
What I was gonna say, what I just heard from you is that you know who you are in your mind, and so you need to stay on track with that presentation.
Yeah,
And so I just heard that, and so that's why you are, it may not work for everybody, but you just said, if I don't have this in front of me, then I'll be all over the place.
Uh-huh.
And more than likely, I won't hear her needs, so it's really smart that you know how you work.
And having that process helps
Yeah.
you not skip things.
Right.
Shannon?
And the other thing is, we all know that sometimes the objections that you bring up at the very beginning are not the real objections. So having the process and going through, and I love how you keep checking in, you're kind of soft closing her. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Did I make that clear?
Yeah.
Is very helpful, because then she feels comfortable sharing more, and those might be your real objections. In your instance, they are, but a lot of times they're not.
Mhm.
So spending a lot of time on that front end is probably not too helpful.
I love it. No, that's helpful.
I'm loving this. It's making me rethink my open house thing. I'm like, my bad, everybody. So many missed opportunities for the company in my listing presentation.
But it also shows you that, I mean, it's easy for us to see that because we're sitting here.
Yeah.
We're in the conversation.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
a,
probably do. Setting that up.
from a new agent with no experience, you got me something, so.
I appreciate you.
I would say.
You got something to sell?
At the moment.
And I've lost to him before, so I know he's good.
Sinjin, if I could just add with the open houses, what we found when we were in front of our clients is so often they're the ones telling us about the home. Like we as the listing agents, we know everything about that home if we spend
Yeah.
time with them. So for us, for the open houses, it's our opportunity.
Mhm.
We'll stand at that front door, greet everybody
Mhm.
and tell them, you know, everything about this amazing home.
Mhm.
And then their agents come, like we know when we're working buyers, your buyer will say, well, what do you know about the roof? And I'm as buyers, I don't know anything about the roof.
Mhm.
But for that one day, it's
Mhm.
our opportunity to meet and greet everyone that comes through
Mhm.
and their agents and tell them, hey, did you see this? Or hey, and we hear the objections. So
Yeah,
when people say we don't sell homes, we've been tracking for about a year and a half and 9 out of 10 of our homes, we have that buyer. Now, not us dual agency.
Our name isn't on the contract as
Yeah,
the
yeah.
buyer's
But
agent,
we've met that
somebody
buyer.
At the house.
that
We met
talked
that
to.
buyer, right, and so we can pretty much say to the seller, we met the buyer today.
Mhm.
We're just not sure which one it's gonna be, and we'll know in a day or so. And it helps the seller to know that we did hear them, we know their home, we have all the answers, so it's our time. And Brittany, I did have somebody with wild animals, I mean, one was in a cage, so we did a 1-day sale. It was a 1-day sale, open house from 12 to 5 because they had, I mean, there was a cat in a big cage. Nobody was
wow.
allowed to go near the
Yeah.
cage. So we did a 1-day sale
yeah,
and,
I love that.
and we sold it in 1 day. They had the opportunity because they could
That's
not get the
awesome.
big
On
one.
the line.
Oh my gosh.
one of the other questions that
No, it was just.
I just-
Like dogs.
I love asking is like, what would you say is the peripheral thing about your house that me coming here today would have no idea about? And sometimes, you know, as you said,
Great question. That's a great
like
question.
a seller will be like, you know what, I love that our neighborhood has like these amazing block parties. Or I love the way that when the sun comes up in the morning, I'm having my cup of coffee, it cascades across our kitchen countertop, like. Yeah, well, but I think that, you know, that, like, I can think about my own home, and I'm sure everyone here can think about something in their own home that, like, you would really only know if you live there, right? And you're able to like share this intimate thing, and sometimes like in the power of, you know, in a description, or like when you're at an open house, you're able to paint that picture. It's just a really powerful question to ask, because it's not the tax mapper, it's not the bedrooms, bathrooms, and finishes. It's like, what is the thing about your home that is the one thing that you're gonna miss the most type deal?
Yeah.
So just asking someone that question, I think is really powerful, because it takes it away from like the nuts and bolts to like, hey, like, this is the thing, you know, and it kind of shifts the mood of the conversation to a deeper level, I find. So like the peripheral of the house is a powerful thing. So one thing that you'll realize, and I'm going back now, I'm just gonna pop back in. So we always take professional photography of your home, and the reason that we do that, and it is seriously so important, because most people, they search for a home right here, right, on their phone. And you have about 3 seconds to make an impression of someone wanting to get into your house, and I think 100% of home buyers use the internet now to search for property. So if you sit down with anyone else and they're taking pictures with their cell phone, it's acting the leaf, okay? We'll take that, we'll send those pictures out to over 400 websites. Some of the top websites we use are Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and I'm sure you've heard of some of them and you even have your favorite. I joke with my wife that I fly my Zillow airplane around and I look at homes. The beautiful thing about these sites is they are consumer facing. They do tie into the MLS like you had said earlier, and they allow people to look at your property all the time. So don't be alarmed if you're sitting at home and you just see people driving by your house. Because often what will happen is people see a house on the phone, like, did you see this? We should go drive by. And they'll hop in the car and they'll drive by. And our goal is when they drive by, they see those signs. And we're able to capture them right there and do a really good job of qualifying and again, driving them to your property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. I'm gonna just kind of breeze over a couple little things here. We talked about social media, which I'm trying to amp up, so I'm gonna be leaning on some of the social media experts out there. But one thing that we always talk about is the importance of showing time and how we schedule showings. And the fact that the only people that are gonna have access to the home are licensed real estate agents. Again, I got burned on that one time, so it's like ingrained in me, you have to explain that. And you know, I would bring up at this point, and the open house would have been a great time. Brittany, we want you to be in as much control as possible when you're, when you're showing your property. I understand you have a ton of moving parts. You and Ben are both professionals. You have busy lives. Your girls, they have a lot going on, and you have 2 animals. Like, you are doing it.
Mhm.
The benefit of this app is it gives you control over when and how showings happen. We can create specific time blocks that fit your needs. And make sure that if you want some downtime, we can give that to you. We can ask for 1 hour notice, 24-hour notice. We want to keep it as customizable to you and your schedule as possible. Just know, and I'm sure you know this, the more open you are, the better it typically is because you're able to accept as many showings as possible. But I also understand that comes with a cost, and that's probably your energy and your stress. So just know we can customize that to your needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes me feel better.
Awesome. The other thing that's really important to us whenever we're doing our job is feedback. And, you know, we work really hard to provide you with really good feedback because, again, I said it once and I'll probably say it 100 more times, I'm not perfect. There may be things that I miss going through here. And very much like this role play today, other eyes are helpful, right? They're gonna be able to come in and maybe identify some things that we overlooked. If there's things that we can change, we might wanna approach them that way. If somebody doesn't like the lot, well, there's probably not much we can do about that. The other thing that's gonna give me an opportunity to do is be proactive in negotiating. So if someone gives us a little bit of a crack in the door and says, hey, my buyer has some interest, I'm going to be proactive in calling that agent to find out what needs to happen to bring us together if it's possible. Cool,
Yeah, that's cool.
awesome. Do you have any questions about our marketing, our process, what it looks like when we expose your home, how showings work?
No, so far, I totally understand.
Great. So the next few pages are just examples of the marketing that we do, the MLS, pictures, the back end of our website, things of that nature. And again, the goal of this is to drive as many people as possible to your property.
Can you show the room? I've always appreciated the picture of the unprofessional photo versus the professional photo. I know cell phones have come a long way,
Yeah.
but
Well, that video online, the 0.5
exactly.
chest.
But it is an easy visual for you to just explain like why that can be so important, because it blows my mind that there's still a lot of agents that do that. So I've always appreciated that graphic.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's like the things that we take for granted all the time. And I feel like probably 95% of people in here are like, yeah, I always call a photographer to take the pictures. But again, it's just what's in it for them, explaining the detriments of not, and just,
And we have a habit of assuming that people know what we do.
Yeah.
So oftentimes it appears that we're a duck just gliding across the lake, smooth sailing, stress-free, because we don't talk about how heavily we're pedaling underneath that water and all of the things that we have to do to keep the transaction going. You have to tell people what you're doing or they have no idea. So it is the small details that you're working really hard to do, and you've got this seamless system in this process, but if you don't educate your clients that you're doing all those things, then they have no idea, and they're going, and then at the end of the transaction, they're like, where did I pay them X percent? So you can use this to help them understand those little processes, and then throughout the transaction, not like a rub it in their face kind of way, but like you need to help them understand the work you're doing, because they don't know.
yeah, tell the story, articulate your value.
Yeah, over and over and over and over.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the worst whenever you're like talking to another agent, you're explaining the story, explaining the situation, all the back and forth, the background, this and that. And finally, you know, they're like, okay, those terms make sense. But then if you just call your seller and you're like, hey, they accepted it, they're like, oh, we should have went for more. It's like, what? You know, I just literally donated a kidney for you. So get burned a couple times like that and you'll realize the importance of like really, and in your mind, you might have to fight it, because I know I do, to go back and say, hey, I just want to let you know, this was the step I took, this was the step I took, and this was the step I took with all this in mind. And it's not necessarily a me thing, but based on what your goals were, I kept that in mind, and this is what I did to get you this result. And that is so powerful, because then that also lets them know you didn't miss a step. Like that, then they'll be, well, did you do that thing or the other thing that we thought? So just make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's.
That might be a little bit of a mindset thing, because I think people do like to peer behind the curtain and they do like to learn from you. So like people that are using you now, and a lot of maybe your avatar, my avatar likes to learn from me. And so if you're sharing, like, I did this is how we negotiated this price. Like, and they can see what you've done. First of all, they can take something and learn the next negotiation they have. But I think they do value that more than we think. It's not like a brag. It's like, hey, here's some tools I just used. Do you like them? Like, do you want to use them? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've gotten better with it over time because
Yeah.
I've been thanked for that. Right? At first, I'm like, I don't wanna come off as like, yeah, I'm doing my job, I don't. But then I realized the power in it, and they're like, thank you for taking those steps.
Mhm.
So, yeah, after you can have that, the mindset is the most important thing,
Mhm.
you know, to be able to do that. So I know we're just running short, about 4 more minutes. What we go into now, Braddock, to your point, is negotiation. So I often will say negotiation to me is one of the most important parts of the whole thing and what you're really hiring someone to do. It's where the rubber meets the road. And I also love to use a fishing metaphor because to me, marketing is like, oh, you have really good bait, right? And you know what you're looking for and you can cast it out there. But if you've ever been fishing, getting a fish to nibble is like quarter of the battle. If you've ever been fishing like in the deep ocean, reeling that sucker in is where it counts. And there's technique and there's nuances and there's strategy. And I always like to explain negotiation is one of the most important parts of the process, even from the time that we get the initial offer from a buyer. And before I even call you with that offer, I'll call that agent and I'll simply just ask them some questions about their offer, about their buyer. What has them moving to the area? Is this their best offer? Aren't they expecting a counter? And oftentimes I'll just sit there and I'll wait. And more times than not, a lot of agents will say, no, they're expecting a counter. Well, thank you. Because that's what I want to know. Or is this where they're at? Now, don't just start lying to me, people, and tell me they're, no, just kidding. But I think the power of proactive negotiation is so critical in our job. And you're able to learn so much to help you better guide your client. And oftentimes, if you learn about motivation and, oh my gosh, their grandkids are 2 blocks away, that's a really important thing to know. Like, that's going to help a little bit. This is where they want to start, but they may have a little bit more. That's wonderful. I can then talk to the seller and just say, hey, in the conversation I have, they believe there's a little bit more movement for them. Maybe a counter is in your best interest, and this is maybe where you want to consider. Or no, this is the highest, and let's not irritate them. You just use your professional, you know, expertise to be able to determine that. But those questions, like coming from curiosity, open-ended, are the most powerful questions you can ask in any negotiation. And I'm sure a lot of you already do that, but I just realized the power in those myself. This is where I'd also talk about in negotiation, we're able to discuss the different terms that we'd like to see. Now, depending on your situation, Britt, if you had to stay in your home until construction, I'd want to be upfront with that in the agent remarks on the MLS. Does everyone else agree with that?
Yes.
So I would want to be upfront in the MLS that you need to be able to stay in the home until April 1. And everyone that was coming through the house should have a good understanding. And I'll also put in there that ideally, these are the terms that we should see. The one thing that I want to make you aware of is that we may alienate some buyers that can't accommodate that. And that's okay because that's just the reality of our circumstance. But whenever offers come in, I'm going to work really hard to get the terms that are ideal for you. Ideally, you won't be paying for lease back. You'll be able to stay in your home free for most of the time. They might let you stay a little bit longer so that the move will be a little bit easier. And I would just unpack that process. I'm not going to go into the full-blown thing right now just for sake of time, but that is where I would address that concern. And then if everything made sense, I'd say, thanks so much for letting me go over that. You had great questions. Is there anything that I missed? What questions do you have?
I have an objection, but you did really good.
Oh, great. I
You
mean,
did so good. I guess here is probably where a normal seller would start negotiating price.
yeah, or they might even ask me what price is. Like, oh, that sounds great. What does that cost?
Yeah.
So I always come prepared with a cost sheet and then, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, wouldn't you say you did 2 steps to it? So would you have a number up front?
So no, I typically wouldn't, and oftentimes, I try my hardest to sign listings TBD. Cause I don't want the price of their property to impact like their decision to list with me or not, like, we're talking about me selling the house. Now, if we're so far off, that will probably be a conversation, and I don't know if anyone else signs TBD listings. But I just put in the price TBD and then I'll send them a CMA afterwards with a change in listing to list price with the estimated cost sheet. But here I would just say, if that don't make sense, I then pull out, I always have a blank cost sheet at $100,000. I think $100,000 is easy math for a lot of people, myself included. And it's a lot different than pulling out a cost sheet right away at 500 grand and like hitting them with that. I mean, I can do really quick math, but not everyone does math like me. So I always break it down at 100,000, I'll break down, now it's a little bit different, I'll give them options on broker fee. I still think it's very much in their benefit to offer an incentive to a buyer's agent. I usually will say, do you want to attract as many buyers as possible here? If ever, in a perfect world, would you want to attract as many buyers as possible? And typically people will say yes. And I'll just explain the history of like, it's always been negotiable, right? It's always been, it's up to them. Things have changed a little bit, but I still think that it is best to offer a co-broke of some sort. And I will say that, and I'd like to get is everyone in here?
Yes.
Sorry, maybe for another time, but I will go over their options there, what I think is in their best interest, and then if they don't necessarily want to lock into anything, what their other options are. Through that, I'll go over deed transfer tax, notary fee, wire fee, and I think it's the municipal cert fee, or like the fees that are like boilered into my cost sheet, and then we have a broker fee. And then I can just give them a really quick, like, hey, it tends to be around 7.5. Total cost is like 7.5% of the purchase price. If you just elect to pay a 3% co-broke. And then that just gives them kind of a ballpark that they can do math on any offer and just have a general walk away rule of thumb.
So through your listing presentation, are you getting them to sign the listing documents right there?
Yeah, they're cool with that. I'm like, great, next steps, for us to get the ball rolling, we'll finalize price in a few days. Once we agree on price, we'll have pictures set up, and then depending on what their goals are, off market, coming soon. I'll sign a listing every time if I can.
How do you
Can you-
close?
I was saying, can we pretend to close, like you got the listing paperwork out
Oh, yeah, I mean, well, so.
with the TBD?
Yeah, they're at the end, if like, assuming like the fees made sense, because really, I think. Yeah, if everything was right, say, that's great, Brittany, well, to take the next steps, I'm gonna go over these documents, the state legally requires me to sign documents to put a sign in your yard, believe it or not, so we're gonna go over those right now. The first one that we're gonna sign is consumer notice, then we're gonna go into the listing agreement, do you want the nickel cord or the quarter cord?
The nickel.
Yeah, and then I just, da, 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 da.
So I do the same thing,
Yeah.
and one phrase that has worked pretty well is, so really, there are a couple of different decision points. The first decision is that we agree that it makes sense for us to work together. And if that's the case, then we can go ahead and sign the listing. Then the second decision is I need to go back and do my homework. And then I come and I present to you a price range, and I'm gonna show you the data, all the stuff we say we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And then that's where we decide what we're gonna price it for. But the first thing to do is to agree that it makes sense for us to work together.
I love
Well,
it.
and when they say, and when they say,
It's important to come back for the pricing.
So I use a CMA bomb approach. I've been doing that for like 3 years and it has changed my life. Like I pull data, I have an analysis process that I use, and then I just use bomb, which is a video template. And I will do a face recording of the comps of my CMAs. I'll go over the whole process of the CMA, why we do it, how we do it, the thought process behind it. I'll level on their property, anything that I'm concerned about with their property, then I'll roll into my comps. This is the nuts and bolts of this comp, this is why we might be worth more, this is why we might be worth less, and then it'll come with price, and then I ship it to them. And then they literally, I've had some of those bombs, because you can see, they open them 20 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look, and they look, and they like eat it up. And then what I find is it's not an emotional reaction to my thing. It's like, okay, we had time to stew on that, that all makes sense. I like your recommendation, whereas if I'm like here with you, Stacy, like, let's talk about your property. This is what I think. Normally, the first reaction I get is emotion. So by giving it to them in a video format, and that's how everyone consumes that anyway. They want to see a video now. So I give it to them in a video and allow them to have that. And they watch it and they can share it with people that they love. They can watch it on their time at 10 o'clock at night if that's when they do their thing. Not around my time. Like if they just got off work and they're worried about their kids' practice, they're not even there with me.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be able to do that, and then the next day I say, hey, I'm gonna follow up with you tomorrow after you've had a chance to watch this and make sure you understand. If you have any questions about what I found, please, we can discuss them, but I've had people write back and say, that was so helpful to like have it that way.
so first of all, I love the video, and I've found great success with that as well. Real or perceived, my thought process would be to go in with getting a TBD listing signed. The biggest objection you're gonna get is, I don't wanna sign until we know what the price is. What do you say when you hear that?
You know, I will say that if I'm signing them TBD, I don't know if I've gotten that objection.
Oh, okay, great.
Just because I don't, and maybe that's because I don't close every appointment anymore. I just trust my social intelligence. If we had good rapport, great. If it makes sense to do it the next, I'll do that. I'd like completely just trust that part of the process. I am not a hard closer. Like, I'll never close hard. If, like Shannon said, hey, the first decision is, do you like me and do you feel comfortable working together? Yeah, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like, because I feel like they trust you enough at that point that if the next step doesn't make sense, then we also have an easy exit guarantee, fire me. That's okay too. Like, if you wake up tomorrow morning and you thought that was weird after I slept on that, just call me and tell me, I'll release you from the contract then. Like, I'm not here to lock you down. So I'm completely just removed from it. And I truly feel that way. Like, when I sit down, if you're unhappy in a week with me, please let me know why. But just tell me and I'll give you the contract. I'll tear it up in front of you. I'll come get the lockbox personally and tell you to have a nice day. So I think that because I'm removed from that, they don't feel pressure like I'm gonna pigeonhole them anywhere.
Yep.
And if I also just feel like it's not the right time to close, they might I just don't. And that probably has made me lose, because there are people out there that will close harder than me and probably get that
But
listing.
then they're not your people.
And that's exactly
They're
where
not
I'm at
your
with
people.
it. Yeah. I forced listings before and those are fun.
I don't necessarily feel like that it's a forced listing if you are slightly more aggressive in the close,
Me neither.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can allow your client to fall madly in love with you. But you don't want to take another 24 hours to do more work for that client, when you already kind of know when you walk in there, how much that house is gonna sell for. I mean, you pretty much know. You just need to take that extra 10-15 minutes to basically ask the client, Brittany, what do you want to sell this house for? Because I also know she knows what she wants to sell this house for. So if her number happens to be right around the number that you know, okay, if it's higher in my listing contracts, I will also say, well, I'll make you a deal. If you don't want to list where I'm suggesting, we'll go your route, but let's go ahead and write in 2 weeks, we're gonna go ahead and drop your price to this. So I don't even have to go back and get another.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't want people to think like, it's not that you're being like a hard ass.
Oh, no, yeah.
Right.
Oh, and I've signed one step with price in the box too. I'm just
Yeah.
doing like 80, yeah. I've signed appointments there with a
Yeah.
price in,
Like,
all
I'm just
that.
like, if we're all on the same page and our numbers are all in the
Let's rock
same
and roll
area,
this thing.
like, I
Yeah,
don't wanna have to come back
totally.
24 hours later.
Totally. And I also will talk at listing appointments. I don't know if anyone uses the real stats on Bright, Cumberland County, Dauphin County that are included. But, you know, a lot of through this listing presentation, depending on their pricing strategy, but just to get them mentally ready, you want to set expectations on, hey, if you're 2-3 weeks from the market and you're not getting the activity that you want, these are the 3 things that are in our control. You know, it's marketing, it's condition, and it's price. There's no inventory. I mean, it's climbing. I think that's new construction, but the marketing's working. Condition, you know, ahead of time. Price is usually the one valve that you're gonna kind of turn. So if you're saying at the listing appointment in the back of their mind, hey, just in 3 weeks, if we're not getting the activity, we're probably gonna have a conversation on price, and that's what you're hiring me for, they're gonna expect that call in 2 to 3 weeks, same as you're signing the paperwork.
Yeah.
But that is the most powerful tool here, is establishing that relationship and setting those expectations so that all you have to do is follow through. Like those proactive conversations that allow you to like really guide them in a powerful way. But I mean, I'll sign price too.
What I do love about your presentation is when you do follow up that 24-hour period. I wanna add, I will get them to sign with a number, but I will now follow up 24 hours with the BombBomb. With the, Brittany, I am so excited, like we are
Yeah.
7 days away, like congratulations for making this important move, and I will send the BombBomb
Yeah,
or whatever.
oh, I love.
So I love that. But I'm not leaving without this, I'm not leaving without the number,
Yeah.
the signature and a plan.
Yeah, there are times I just don't have the number.
Yeah.
So I won't,
Well, it
but
depends on the house too.
Well,
I mean, if it's one of these weird.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like
I
a
mean, yeah.
row home in Carlisle Borough, whoa,
Got that.
bang, bang, yeah. We'll cut that up.
love that feedback. What,
Yeah, seriously.
what other like ahas did you get from today? What's the one thing that you got that maybe you weren't expecting or that you're like, I'm gonna implement this? I talk.
Can I see your 16 questions that you asked? Any real?
We take one at a
Is
time.
one of his name Jason by Tom?
I'm the lockbox, I'm the lockbox.
He's the lockbox. It's not one that I think that's probably, they probably brainchild of that.
Another great alternative to BombBomb if you need a cheaper option, but you will not get as many analytics is Hippo. So for those that need to be on a little tighter budget, nothing wrong with that. I use Hippo because I don't need the analytics that come with BombBomb. So just know that that is another email video, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Solution. Hippo, like the something. Yeah.
If you can do it private, I thought that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Aaron.
Yeah,
Working hours.
yes.
I am not one of those agents, well, we're new here to brokerage.
Yeah.
I've always worked just literally
Whenever.
anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even tell them, like, call me anytime, even when they say, I'm so sorry, I know it's late, blah, 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 I'm like.
Yeah.
I just, it's all good, or, you know, whatever. But I would like to get into the habit, so I guess my question is, have you had pushback on working hours?
Oh, I would say. I can't remember one. I can't. And honestly, I love that that's written in the beginning of the book too. Because if someone's like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me, that's probably not gonna work for me either.
Right,
Unless I'm like, I need this listing right now. Like, it gives me parameters to work within. And then I can break those parameters as I see fit.
right,
So what I'm essentially trying to do, yeah, if you would call me at 7 o'clock on a Friday, I might pick up. But it also, I've set expectations that it's not unusual if I don't,
right,
right? And then anytime I go outside of my hours, especially with my clients, I'll say, hey, I know I told you I don't work outside these hours, but it was just something that came up. I wanted to take care of it for you real quick.
right.
And then it's just kind of like retraining them. But it's also okay if you want to run your business 24/7.
It's more value when you do make that phone call.
Yeah, but again, that comes from articulating, like, don't just call and break your own rules, because then they'll start taking advantage of those rules.
Right.
You have to acknowledge that you're breaking them to help solve that thing real quick. I just had a moment, I want to take care of that for you now.
We had an agent in Atlanta that I was at a training with, and she would say, I always tell my clients I keep hours like Chick-fil-A. I'm open 7 to 11, closed on Sundays. And that was, Sunday was her day. She's not
Yeah.
working Sunday. She put that out there.
Yeah.
And who can't remember?
Chick-fil-A hours,
Right?
yeah.
Like who knows? Chick-fil-A on
Yeah.
Sundays, don't call Renee on Sundays, like don't do it.
Yeah.
I like what you said about like my wife likes to spend time with me, my kids and my wife like to see me. So when you give the hours, if you explain why, so it's not just like, hey, I'm done after 5 p.m. But like if you're like, I don't miss a wrestling match or a basketball game, rest assured we have you covered with our showing agents or whatever, but like depending on whichever side of the deal you're on. But I like when you share why, because then they're like, Sinjin's with his wife, this could wait till tomorrow.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that gives, especially if you're new to setting hours, it also gives you the conviction to hold your line too.
Right.
If you're like, this is important, I have to hold this out, people will ask you and they will push those lines if, you know, if you don't have that conviction. to
And
keep
if they're
up.
your people, they'll respect that.
Right.
Totally.
So.
It's
and you
almost
wanna
like a
start building
filter.
your people.
Yep.
Just like Shannon said, I don't even know what it was about, but they're probably not a good fit for you anyway.
Right.
It just is one of those things that I found in my business acts as a filter, and I'm grateful to be able to stay true to that.
Mhm.
Are there times that I step outside that filter? Like January 28th, I'd probably step outside that filter, but I really make it a point to everything just and I get buy-in. Like, I don't just say my hours. I say what my hours are, and I say, is that okay with you?
right,
Because they're opting into that. So that's the key question. It's not, hey, I work from 9 to 6 moving on. I work from 9 to 6. Is that okay with you? My wife and kids love to hang out with me when I'm at home.
Right.
And the second they say yes, and they usually say it like Brittany, of course, like, yeah, And that's usually 100% of the people like, yeah, they don't work 7 days a week.
Right.
Usually.
And that's where the bombs or the hippo videos, because you can use that for a lot of your process during your working hours. And then they can view it when they're off. So like I would do that with inspection reports when they weren't disasters. Like if it was just like
Yeah.
a couple minor things, I would do a hippo video to go over and be like, hey, just want to point out, like there were a couple outlets that might need addressed, you know, whatever my scripting was back then. And then I'd be like, go ahead and review it. I have the report attached. Let's schedule time to talk about it tomorrow.
Just another thing I want to add, and I know I'm over, but just that I've learned through, you know, I'm sure a lot of us have. Delivering bad news is hard, right? Whenever you have like big things that kind of blindside you. The one thing, if you're not already doing it, that I really want to encourage you to do is if you get like that really low offer on that listing that's been sitting, and it's lower than you'd like to see, but you're also like, huh, this might be okay. Or like you get that inspection report that has like 30 items on it, you're like, I was not expecting that. Do yourself a favor, never call the client and tell them that right away. The first thing that you need to do is anchor them low and just say, hey, I just talked with the agent about the inspection. I think it's gonna come back with a lot more than we were anticipating. Because then they're gonna have like this thought process and they're like, oh my gosh, what's on it, what's coming back? But believe it or not, they're processing that emotionally. Like they're setting themselves up for bad news. Same with the low offer, like, hey, I just got off the phone with an agent, even if they're, I'm not saying to lie, but even if the offer is in your inbox and you read, you're like, ooh, that's not gonna go over well. Do yourself a favor, call the client, or if you've been texting with them, text them, say, hey, I just wanna let you know, I spoke with the agent, I think we're gonna be getting an offer. I think it's lower than what we'd like to see. Then in their brain, they're like, well, it's 50 grand under. And then you might go to them with 30 under, you know, so it's just those quick, like, emotional expectation setting, like, pings are very powerful when you're trying to have a good conversation, because if you don't do that, the first 10-15 minutes of your conversation is all emotion. You're not gonna get anywhere, and at the end, you might still not be anywhere, or at least if you have that opportunity to hedge it off at the pass almost, then whenever you talk to them on the phone, you're able to be in the logic part and actually just have a good conversation that hopefully moves the needle in one way or the other.
That's super powerful, super powerful. How long do we wait before before you?
I would say a half hour, you know, or longer, you know, depending on what your day looks like. Hey, this is the conversation I had. My day is this, next steps are this. Get the call from me around 3. So they have a point in their mind when you're gonna connect. They're gonna be able to process what's going on. And then you're gonna be able to have a good conversation that allows them to like make a logical decision about their situation and not just that visceral reaction of like,
I think it also gives time for your emotions to calm down,
Totally.
because they will feel what you're feeling.
totally.
Shannon?
I love that. That's super helpful. And I think the other thing is not only figuring out when you want to tell them based on your schedule, but knowing theirs.
Yeah,
Like, you're not gonna call them at 8 o'clock at night.
yeah,
Bad decision.
yeah.
Right? You're not
That's a
gonna
good
call
time to
them as
talk
they're
about this.
getting off work, right?
Yes.
You know, you wanna figure out what's the schedule that's gonna work for them
Great
to
idea.
be able to have that conversation. But I
Totally.
love the anchoring piece. It's a game changer.
Yeah, it's helped me tremendously.
I love that. Any other questions from the room? I know we went over, but it's with good stuff, so I appreciate your patience and the questions.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Sinjin.
Just a quick 5 minutes, give me time to, and then, yeah, then we're doing the presentations. Yeah, so-
Nicely done.
I feel like I should do that like once a quarter in front of everyone and
It's hard.
really,
right?
I'm like, oh my God.
I know, it's so much harder.
Oh, it is. And it's like, I'm like, big bang. The peers that know the instance, it's like, I can kind of mess up the first time. But here I'm like, everyone's like, idiot.
Are you going back for everything? No.
So. Hey, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Is it on?
It is.
You got 3 too? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so what I'm doing is when I walk through the house, I have. We have like a. Here's a stat sheet. Then I'll fill it. So I'll walk through it, I'll the property, front, back, up, extended, so I'll have that. So I'm filling that out actively as I go through, getting all the notes on the property, anything they love, anything that needs work, and I'm taking that. And then I'm sitting down and going over and working with them, but I'm like actively listening and taking notes of what like they're excited about, what they're concerned about. And then that allows me to like integrate it into my brain. So I have those notes and then I do the presentation. And I'm providing value there because I want to establish like, maybe work with me. I'm also just trying to build that rapport too. Like I want to leave a lasting impression, like, hey, this person I can work with, they know their stuff and they're the best person for the job. The CMS. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And sometimes I'll go in there, like Stacey was saying, be prepared to go over pricing and establish that full out. But for my time management, I find to do stuff this way better. Now, if someone tells me they're reviewing multiple agents and like they seem like they're gonna go quicker, I will probably go a little bit to try. Good to see you.
Never happened.
All right, thank you.
And I'm here.
Right, yeah.
And the other.
And this new office, if we say you are, the team officer has. At our.
I don't He's like, he always got like. One more time. Yeah, but it's so. Oh, Yeah, oh, that I really like. That's what I thought, okay. All right, listen to you. Yes, next Wednesday. Okay.
Same.
Yes, perfect. What's up, Adrian? Sorry.
Same. Oh, I love technology.
This is what's happening, but I'm gonna be part of it. Oh, no, but I was telling you that I had a hello.
It's the same thing. If I can. Yeah.
I know,
I was just talking to someone.
Yeah. I need to keep going. I know. All
right, guys, we're gonna get started in about a minute. And there is, Trey late shake cake back there if you want, if you need a little. Trey's late shake, you need a little, sugar.
Yeah, I know.
I went here all about the details, like. Well, I'm proud of you, like, I don't have any, I don't have any, like. Rent for
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. You get very right around the it gets into the building or something if it's.
That's just trying to give all access to one city. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Love you, love you.
Yeah, we definitely have a faith and.
Get some cake, take it with you. Wasn't she just here?
Yeah, too.
Maybe.
Yeah, she ran away.
Great, I wish you could go to your appointment. That's the thing. Sorry. Yeah. All right. What did we think about Sinjin's class? Wow, holy cow. I could sit and a whole page of notes here. I could sit and listen to Sinjin like all day, every day. He is very good at what he does and we love him. We are very, very lucky to have him as part of our brokerage. So how do we take what Sinjin did? Role playing with Brittany, and how do we implement that into our business? Maybe we've been doing this for a while, maybe we're relatively new and are just looking for a refresh, but I think it's important that you know that inside your world of KW Command, you have the ability to create something really similar to that brochure, the packet, right? That Sinjin had for us. Keeping in mind that as part of the Dave Hook team created those beautiful little magazines and flyers and all the graphics and the verbiage and everything in there. And they have, I'm sure, boxes and boxes and boxes of them that Sinjin can grab at any point in time. As an independent agent or, you know, as part of a different team, other than the Dave Hook team, you may not be afforded that luxury so freely. So I wanted to make sure that you know you have an opportunity using the resources that KW already provided to you. You have an opportunity to do the same sort of presentation. It doesn't have to be in magazine form. It can be very, very simple. So considering the things that Sinjin went over with Brittany, what are some things that you think are really important to sort of showcase in these listing presentations? What sort of data are you looking to put in? What sort of topics are you wanting to cover? Amy, marketing, tell me more.
Who we reaching? How are we doing it?
Who are we reaching? How are we doing it? Care to share any of your trade secrets?
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't do a listing presentation.
Tell me more.
I know, right? So this is.
Tell me
very-
more.
This is a very good class for me. I used to do them very religiously at the beginning of my career.
Okay.
And then the majority of my business is referral, like from my personal sphere. So like, I've gotten very lax in, because I don't, all the hard work I've done at the beginning of my career. So I did that by establishing a really good, solid book of business that refers the crap out of me.
I love that.
So when I go into listings now, it's a very warm connection.
Yeah.
It's more or less, okay, what are your concerns? It's not the how that's really important to them.
Yeah.
At that point, it's the who.
Yeah.
And I've already established the who. All right, what are your needs? Let's establish that we're gonna be able to get you to where you wanna be. And that's really all the conversation that I have. And I know that my business is lacking in that I could provide better service. So I'm looking to see how to do it through through.
Thank you.
command.
Thank you for your honesty,
You're
your vulnerability, and thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. What do you got, Anthony?
I was just gonna say, I feel like marketing, selling myself, just presenting myself and my value to. That's why I need clients, because in my case, it'll be different. I'm new, I don't know people, I'm meeting you for the first time. Who are you? You're kinda, so, I like what you were saying about just making sure that they're okay with it. Like, does that sound good to you? These are my hours. Are you good with that? Because you may not fit in my bubble. I'm
Absolutely.
huge with the hours because I want my family to always come first. So.
I love that. I love that. I'm glad that you sort of pointed out the I'm new to this, right? Because I think that a lot of times that's sort of the insecurity of how do I market myself on this presentation when I haven't done this thing with you yet, right? Like what am I supposed to put on here? I don't have the stats, I don't have the numbers, I don't have maybe all the resources that Dave Hook offers. So how do I sell myself as a brand new agent who's never transacted? Terry, you were gonna say something?
My listing presentation does not include a thing about myself. I took it all out because I think it's about the client, and sometimes they do ask me. But, it's all hidden. I have testimonials that I can pull up, like I have a Canva. It's not that cool, it's really not, but like I go through my slides just so I stay on track with my topics. And then I have hidden at the end some things in case they bring up questions, but I'm not gonna have them read my client testimonials. Now, I do like talking about Keller Williams as a whole, which new agents could benefit from significantly. But that is, I like to go in there and I say, this is about you. What are your goals? Let's create a custom plan. And I like Sinjin's presentation. I love the print. For some reason, that's like, I have it written on here, like figure out how to do printed listing docs because like I always get thinking like, I don't want to print these on my printer. Like my printer quality sucks and I can't make something like that. But this is like, I like the simplicity of his, and I like that if they wanted to look more about him, they could. But this is about them.
Yeah, yeah, I love that perspective. I love that perspective. Erin, I know you like painstakingly recreated, when you guys transitioned over to KW, you completely redid the Stacy Millett group, listing presentation. What sort of things in there are you guys showcasing? What's important for you guys to portray?
Well, after this, I'm going to go back in and making a change a lot, not change, add to, because right now it's it's not that it's basic, but it's just a guide and I mean, we tried to keep it as minimal as possible. And then if we wanted to like touch on things that were important to the client, but I can understand how we don't have anything about, yes, we have a quick little thing about the team and what we offer, but as far as like TC and our team consists of more than just us three.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for them to know, and especially if they're gonna be working with the TC a lot. Probably just as much as me, if not more.
Absolutely.
After stuff goes under contract or whatever. So, I definitely am gonna be putting that in both buyer and seller packets.
I love it. Now,
Yeah, it's pretty basic, right, at this point.
Taryn uses Canva. So she has a presentation, like a slideshow that she created in Canva, that is her listing presentation. Did you use Canva as well? I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So Canva, how many of you know and can use Canva? Okay. Okay, well, that makes this class way easier. So, if any of you have met with me and done any sort of command training, if we've done command orientation together, command overview class together, anything of the sort, you'll know that there's one app in the world of command that I hate. And it's the one where we create listing presentations. So command does give us the option using the little paintbrush app, which is called the Designs app. This gives us the option of creating not only listing presentations, but a myriad of graphics. And yet, I'm a Canva girl. I just am. But I want you to know, if you're not a Canva person, if you don't
with your KW email address, you get the 20% off the Canva Pro version. So if you want to do Canva Pro, but without Canva Pro, you have limited ability to download all the graphics and stuff. So if you want to just do it in Command, this is where we're going to do it.
What was the discount for Canva?
20% off the Pro, which I think Pro is like $119 a year. So you get a 20% off like that, yeah. So in order to create our listing presentation, or if you're primarily a buyer's agent and you're like, what, can I do a buyer's presentation? Absolutely, same concept, right? We're gonna do this, I'm gonna just give you sort of a guided tour through here. And then I welcome you, if you have your laptop with you, if you wanna do this and the training room is open after, stay, do it, finish it up. We're not gonna kick you out of here at any point. So we are going to start by going to Command, and we're going to go to Designs, which is my least favorite app inside of Command. I can't say that enough, and yet here we are. Because ideally this is something we're going to tangibly give to our people. You may have a digital version, a PDF, or even a PNG saved on your computer. But ideally, because as Sinjin does, you want to give them something, we would choose that we're going to do a print design. Now, you can do something different, right? You could create an email through here, you could do a video, you could do some socials, but we're going to choose for the intent of the listing or buyer presentation, we're going to choose the print version. And so when we go into this, it's going to bring up a whole menu for us to choose from of templates. So KW offers us for pretty much every scenario and situation that we find ourselves in the real estate world. If you need a graphic, there's probably one already created. It's sort of like our world of smart plans. We don't have to reinvent the wheel because someone else out there has already given us really good models that we can just rip off and duplicate, right? So if we go to templates, and if we go to listings, nope. We're gonna go to presentations. And there's a listing presentation or a buyer's presentation. Where do you find that? So I was in. I have to click back because it won't let me just go back to. So I went into designs, create design, print. Tanya, does yours look different than mine does when it comes up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only have two in the,
Okay.
I have the two red days.
You may have more templates in here. I'm not sure if it's because I have a leadership sign on, if my selections are a little bit varied, but regardless, AW has prepared these beautiful templates for us that we can just modify and make them our own. So I'm just going to click use listing template. And it's going to bring me into a workspace. If you're used to Canva, it's a similar flow and a similar feel, similar functionality. I think it's less user-friendly than Canva, and it's really touchy in that I have to like make sure I zoom in and hit just the right spot to move things, swap things, change things. That's my gripe in other than that, I think the templates that we have in here are phenomenal. I think the resources that they give us are phenomenal, but the functionality of actually modifying these templates gets on my nerves just a little bit, if I'm being honest. Once we're in the template, you'll see over here in the lower right corner, there's a button that says pages. And so if we hit that button, it will pop open the side view menu, which will show us what each of the 28 pages consists of. You can see we have a custom console created for Mickey Mouse. We have some of my own personalized information on here. The template comes beautifully designed. I mean, you could really just put your name, your number, your client's information in. And it's done. It's sort of like your KW website. If you never go in and touch your KW website, you still look like you have a really kick-ass website. Like, it's done for you. The other really great thing is if you're going, well, this is nice, but I don't really need this page. You have the option, click the 3 dots, you have the option of deleting that page out. If that doesn't make sense in your presentation. So you have full customizability of this thing. If you like a page and you want to create another one just like it, you can duplicate it just like you can do in here. Okay. Where some of the functionality comes in. So let's assume that we're working here on our first page. I'm just gonna push this menu back over to give us more workspace so we can actually see what we're doing here. This is a beautiful front door, and let's assume that we really like to get a picture of our listings front door on here, right? We want to make it more specific to the listing that we're going to. So we can come over here and we have this button called the KWLS. And this is actually linked to the MLS. So we can search an address and it will bring up any listings that match that address. The red house that says KWLS under it. Oh, you see it? You can click on that and you can put in an address. You can also search by MLS number if you have your MLS number. If we wanted to see anything that Damon has on the market, we could search by a listing agent. So there are search filter features over here. But let's just search for now by an address, and it popped up a couple different options. Let's assume that this 25 Main Street here is the property that we're going to consult with. We click select. And it literally brings up all the pictures from the MLS. Done.
That will only work if there is actually physical listing of that property with photos.
Correct.
So
Correct.
anything that doesn't have a tax photo, or if it's not in the MLS, it's not coming up.
Correct. Correct. And so here's where you have to be really particular in designs. It gets very touchy. Here's where I used to just fight and fight and fight. When you want to swap out a picture, it shouldn't be this hard. Click on the picture and you can see it's sort of highlighted in blue around it. I want to put this front door picture. That's a beautiful front door, beautiful picture. I want to replace this front door with the listings front door. This little circle button in the middle is what I want to hit to replace. So if I hit that, it moves the picture I chose into the one that was on the list. If I don't do that, if I just click on the picture, then it puts it on.
Places it on.
Places I don't want it. Yeah.
You can slide it in.
Yeah.
So one more time, how'd you do it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Highlight the picture you want to replace. Come over here, and there's this little circle icon.
Okay.
That's the replace icon, and that will replace the picture that's on it. And then you can, this is all movable. We can click and drag and crop and then make bigger and all the things. But if you don't have the picture highlighted and you just start clicking pictures thinking you're replacing it, just know you're gonna end up with 15 pictures, all one on top of each other. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know that. Yeah. The other thing I think that's really great in here, that Canva wouldn't offer us, but because we, are a real estate company and we have this, we have the, ability to do it. So I went to, the next page on this particular template, and you can see it's sort of like a snapshot of the neighborhood, right? And while you may be able to go out and pull all of this data, it would be, time consuming, and why would we do that? When commands can already, do that for us. So again, when we're on the KWLS icon, up here, there's this little button called snapshots. And we can search by zip code or by the neighborhood name. And it will actually give us one of these little graphics. Of course, it doesn't like a NOLA zip code. Oh, no. It'll give us one of these little snapshot graphics specific to the zip code that you're using. So you didn't have to go seek out that data or copy it from LLS or anything like that. It's already in there based on either the neighborhood or the zip code. So I'll take this one that's right now customized to Barton Hills. I'm gonna click on the picture and highlight it. And then I'm gonna come over here and click the little replace button. And then it'll update this with a NOLA's information. I can click on these text boxes just like in Canva or any marketing software that you're using. You can click in all the text boxes. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can move them around. You can change the font, you can change the color. All different customizable options in here for you. The template that's set up in here, you'll see there are places where you can go ahead and put your comps in. If you're at a point where, maybe more like Stacy would do it on her presentations whenever she's going out, she may already have, the comps pulled and ready, and she may have them plugged right in here for the client. You also have the ability in designs to actually store assets specific to you. So you can have designs store your headshot, a block with your email address, a block with your website, a block with your name. So instead of always having to type those things out over and over and over again, you can just go to My Assets, click, and drag them over there. If you need any help setting up your own assets, if you want to get those put in, I can help you do it. And Scott Lower Marketing, our tech and marketing company partner, if you email them and just say, can you please set up designs with all of my personal assets? They'll go in, they'll pull your headshot from command, they'll put it in there, they'll pull your data, they'll put everything in there. They'll pull the KW Central PA logo, and they'll put it in there so that you don't have to then go looking for it every time you want to create a design, right? We want to make it as easy and simple as possible, even inside the world of designs there.
Who would you say when you get contact?
Say it again.
Who did you say when you get contact?
Scott Lower Marketing. You can find them on the KW agent portal. I used to follow on my desktop. I was gonna say, I do have a screenshot saved too with all their information. I can connect you with them easy. Now, when Taryn's in Canva and she's doing her listing presentation, she has the ability in Canva, she can download it. She can save it as a PDF, as a PNG. She can do all the things with it. Inside the world of designs, we have the exact same options. We can print, we can download, we can share it. So we can actually get like just a clickable link and we can share that out. There is a Chat GPT function. How many of you are using Chat GPT in any way, shape, or form? Yeah. Full disclosure, here's my notes for today's class.
small check.
Command, IQ wrote it. Like, click, just, I said, and it did, and it's freaking amazing.
What did you ask it to do? Type me,
I asked it to, write me a curriculum for a listing presentation class for agents in my office.
and you use that button up there.
I did it through, oh. If you don't know about Quick, I'm excited to show you this. So on your home screen of Command, right here, this little star button at the bottom. What do you want to learn? And it'll actually give you prompts that you might want to use.
Wait, how did you get that?
Yep, on your home screen in Command. Down here in the corner,
Oh, okay.
the little blue circle. It's like your chat GPT for real estate. So this is all real estate related, right? This is anything you want to know about real estate specific to, not specific to, but including MREA model systems and tools, right? Keller Williams resources. So it actually, when it created my curriculum for me, it actually has the clickable link here. Log them into Command, right? Like, show them how to do these things. Tell them some classes that KW offers that can help them solidify that, like,
So you could say, help me do a listing presentation for, and it will tell you the direction. So we don't need to.
Pretty much.
Everybody go home. Down here.
No, please use this, and the more, it's just like ChatGPT, you know, and I know there's different schools of thought on all of this, so, like, hear my heart when I say, if this isn't for you, don't use it, I get it.
Just need directions.
If you just need,
Like,
it is here,
I
and the
forgot
more,
what she said, and I didn't write it down, so.
the more that you use it, the more it gets to learn you and how you work and what works for you. And this is a Quick, KWIQ. Quick is always improving. It's just getting better and better day by day as our agents are formulating questions, and it's giving us responses. So if you take nothing else away from today for a listing presentation, just know Quick, it's relatively new, and we don't do a good enough job showcasing it. And yes, yeah, I do it. I use it.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So same thing. If you're not a Quick user, but you want to use ChatGPT, go into ChatGPT and just say, what are some stats I can use in a listing presentation in, South Central PA. I just shared in our Facebook group, maybe Friday or Saturday, a whole bunch of slides that somebody else made up. I will not take credit for them, but I shared a whole bunch of slides with just great home buying stats that were just released. Take those, use those numbers in your presentation. I think for a lot of the, maybe for a lot of the newer agents, it's just, I don't know what content I should have in here, right? I don't even know what I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say. So feel free to use the templates that are in here. Feel free to use ChatGPT. Feel free to use the Quick AI inside of Command, and then just take a look at these 28 pages. What sort of information, what are they showcasing on these templates? And maybe this is for you and maybe it's not. And if it's not for you, delete it. Like, get it out of there. For some of us, I think simpler is better. And then, for some of us, we want all the details, and that's okay too. Whatever your style is, make it your own. But here's the thing, do something. Don't do nothing, right? Do something, create, if it's 2 pages or 28 pages, do something and have something ready for your clients whenever you go out there.
I also I like to use, when I do a presentation or send a CMA, like sometimes with an estate or like things that promote them, like, when I didn't know Command, something that helps me understand what data could be in a report or a CMA or in a listing presentation. Is NAR RPR. That people access that, but like I go in there and it's helpful for me to at least substantiate what could be. And then pick through pieces of what I might want to put in here in command or extrapolate from there and put in here or say, I don't, oh, I like something here versus over here. And it's just a helpful reference point.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's helpful.
Yeah. What other resources are you guys using? Those of you that, think, have some experience and have compiled these listing presentations. What are some other resources you use for your data?
Well, NAR RPR also helps with value. If you're looking at or helping to kind of put a pulse or a temperature reading on value too, like Sinjin was saying earlier, hey, I'm checking out Zillow because Zillow is an access to, or you have access, consumers have access to Zillow. So they're gonna automatically go, okay, here's my, at least my minimum probably. Or they're gonna be like, that's way off, I want one more, or that's way too high. And so they're formulating an opinion, and that's usually what they use. When I am looking at a valuation and a listing presentation or a conversation with sellers, I like to kind of find those temperature readings. So I'll look at Zillow. I'll also go to NAR RPR with the information that I found out about the property style, because NAR RPR doesn't do very well in its compiling of value. I think they use too many different types of comps. Their comps are like, I'm comparing this 2-story to a mobile home. It's like, doesn't work. So I have to get really specific, but at least it's really good to say, okay, how we can monitor via market temperature, meaning is the market hot, is it not? We can refine value in a lot of different ways. Does it need work? Is the exterior in more of a higher end, or does it need work? Like there's ways to refine value in our NAR RPR that I think are helpful for directing the narrative in a manner that is concrete versus you saying, here's this comp, and I think the value should be here. This gives more concrete data as to say your specific neighborhood, not quite as hot. Your specific exterior condition, not quite as good. And you can see where there's that hem and haw with value gets added. You can also put in improvements. So like, I just did a kitchen remodel in 2022. It cost me this much in 2022. Those are line items that I can say, I've created value here, and they will calculate. Same thing with items that need improvement. You can say, this kitchen needs gutted. Okay, well then that's going to be able to be put into the formula for a better kind of like point to talk to. So I use those as tools for me to then establish credibility on value and say, okay, these are my temperatures as an agent. And then I can take the data from that and then say, all right, here, this is the reason why I got 2x.
I love that. Is this a resource that you pay
Yes.
for?
No.
It's included in the MLS. Okay. Go ahead.
I heavily rely on RPR, but I just had a really bad experience, so I want to share it because it was my parents passed away last April. We were like, okay, we're gonna prepare the house to sell, and it just has gotten drug out by the siblings. But I immediately have been following it on RPR, and it has, since April to Christmas, it went up probably 75,000. So this week I was talking to the TC about getting our paperwork done. I go to RPR and it says their address was updated January 13th. And it's down almost 275,000, which means something is wrong in RPR. So I called Stacy freaking out, like, oh my God, my parents' home just went down 275,000 from December to January. And she's like, somebody who updated that in January missed a value, whether it was land size or something, because it's all computer generated. However, what I want to point out is, had it not been my parents' home, this is in the Hershey area. I don't sell a ton in Hershey. So I say that would have been my first time. I would have just assumed that the value was correct. I might have been thrown off a little bit, like, really, Hershey? But I might have been like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt to do some multiple checking because,
That's why I don't typically give
Yeah.
that out to my clients. I use that as like me, the agent.
right, but for me, it's
establishing-
been kind of like a Bible for me. I've never had it like really do such a significant, and of course, it was my parents' home. And my siblings were like, what is wrong with you?
You're like, I still have to pay.
You know,
I'm a professional, I see.
so, yeah.
Yes, well, that's good. Thank you for doing that. You know, you guys know I'm pretty transparent. Like, I'm a KW girl, but I don't have all those resources. Like, my license has been referral, so I don't do things the way you do. And so I appreciate you sharing those for those of us that don't know and even some of us that do. Yeah. Yeah. What questions do you have around the functionality inside the world of design? I would be curious to know who is, actually gonna try designs and who's gonna do it.
Couldn't you insert a page from Canva?
100%. You absolutely can import into here.
You
So
could
if
take some pages from Canva and insert them, then also use the pages.
100%. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, it will allow you to import into the
Did you
design.
save it as a PDF or
Yep.
would you save it as a
I would save it as a PDF.
PDF?
Yep. That's an excellent point. You're gonna be meeting with buyers, same concept. Buyer presentation template is in here. Templates. It's just like the library of smart plans. There are templates available for probably anything and everything that you would want to come up with if you are doing an open house, if you are,
So where do we find, in the KW like school for education, where could we find maybe a class on how to do this? Can you show us that?
yeah, so, and this will be.
This could
will-
be after.
No, actually, this is a great resource and this will answer Tanya's question as well. So we partner with Scott Leroy Marketing. Scott Leroy is a real human being. Scott Leroy, he is a real person, blonde hair, lives in Orlando. He was a KW agent who found he had a knack for doing marketing. So he started his own marketing company. And he now has over 100 employees and he serves KW offices all over the country doing tech training and marketing, and they're like my BFFs. I partner very, very closely with them and they help me with a lot of things. So you can go to scottleroymarketing.com. It's going to ask you for your market center number, which is 652, and you can log in. There's no password needed. You just need our office number 652. I don't want to be here. Agent resource tab. You can join live webinars at 1 o'clock every day. They host a webinar. Under the training tab, there's all different places you can go. They have an entire library on recorded training classes. Then we also pay for an extra service where if you want to Zoom one-on-one with them, or you want to communicate with them one-on-one, we do pay for that extra level of service. And that you can find. No. On our kwagentportal.com. Under, agent resources, KW virtual tech support. Here's Elizabeth. She's my BFF. We chat every Wednesday. And Elizabeth does just a ton of stuff in the background for me. She will hop on a Zoom with you if you need trained on anything command, DocuSign, Anything inside the KW world, they are super duper knowledgeable. They'll Zoom with you, they'll talk to you, they'll email back and forth with you, and you have 24/7 access to them at no cost to you. So please take advantage of it. They also, Jenny, they have a YouTube channel. Scott Lori Marketing has their own YouTube channel. You can go on YouTube, search for Scott Leroy, and then just search design class. And they'll have like 40 different recordings of the last 40 design classes that they've done. They'll do like intermediate level classes, like a 101 level, and then they'll also do like a 201 level class. It's just a work for them.
I bet you could probably email her and say, this is what I want.
Sure,
to watch.
Sure, good. Yeah, here's what you need. Yep. Yep.
On those snow days.
Yeah, on the snow days. That's a great use of time. Any other questions on creating your listing presentation, buyer's presentation, working inside of designs? Any other questions in general?
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I have one.
Yeah.
Totally not related to this, but is command. So to do the email campaigns through command,
Yeah.
I just get afraid of, well, I mean, I have like a lot of people in my database that I kind of haven't contacted in a while, and I got their information through, maybe doing a listing campaign thing, and they clicked, and I don't even necessarily have a connection with them, so they're in there. And I just like to start sending them stuff, and they love it.
Yes.
But anyhow, so my fear is with all these like rules about contacting people, does this give them like the opt-out, unsubscribe thing automatically, and I don't have to figure that out?
Yes,
So
that
I
is an
can-
excellent
I
question,
can be
Mindy. Excellent question, yes. Any emails that come out from your command account,
Okay,
just the same way as if you use the Twilio link for your texting, they will always have the, keep me compliant
okay,
footer or verbiage in there. Click here to unsubscribe, reply stop
okay,
to stop receiving these messages. Command will always keep you
okay,
protected.
okay.
And give them that option.
Okay, great, because that gives me a lot
Yeah.
more of like, okay, I can do this. now, 'cause I don't like-
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just because they haven't heard from you doesn't mean they don't want to hear from you, right? So yeah, throw it out there.
Yeah, because I mean, I figure it's just setting it up, getting the emails out, and I never know what'll
Absolutely.
happen, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Questions? That's all right.
And then do we see like if people opt out, is there a way to like do that? And then, well, I mean, you don't have to tell me
Yes.
today. I
Yes.
just was curious,
Yes.
because I'll work through the first part of it first.
Yes.
And then I'll.
There
get the
are
others,
ways that
but-
you, yes,
Yeah.
there are reporting features in the email. You'll be able to see how many people clicked, how many people actually read, did they click any links inside, did they unsubscribe? You'll be able to see all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that helps me a lot just to get started and not be afraid.
Good. Yeah, just do it. Like, just do it. Just do it, right? Don't be afraid, just do it. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to hang out if you wanna sit here and design your presentation. I'm happy to hang out with you for a little bit. You want to ask you a question? Of course. Well, it's not related to the. It's gonna be a while. Uh-oh.
So, by Ms. Brittany, that you are the woman to see about open house signs.
Yeah. I don't have my key on. They're in that closet right there. How many do you know?
I have 4 open houses this week. So.
Is that all?
That's all.
Okay.
So I don't know how many you have or what you have, or
Mhm.
what's going on. And if now is not a good time, we can schedule
Yeah, come on,
it
let's see.
tomorrow.
I'll go grab the key and, you can get what you need and then just, let me know what you take and I'll mark it on the sheet.
Yep.
And Tanya, I'll be right back.
Sure.
And then,
Yeah.
How are you? Yes.
We're not silent. Yeah.
That, lock that.
We have little starburst ones, we have arrow ones. Mhm. Mhm, mhm.
It is. So. On that. That was a possibility, that's not a possibility. Else today, welcome to, that was not a possibility. Hang on. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like her. Um. Oh, my. I might steal these,
Yeah.
H,
Yeah. The ones that aren't broken.
right?
I'm gonna let you do your thing.
You let me do this.
I'm gonna let you do
go
that.
do everything else.
Yeah.
And this room will be more organized when you get back.
I have time, I'm coming to.
Okay.
It's more of a, professional advice or.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, so, my mother-in-law was and we came across this property that was found in, it's this property. And they have it listed for a house. I just went on the right from the left and I saw it, I knew that the person is different from the name that comes in. So the person. I had. I would,
I can talk.
No.
Yeah, I can talk.
No, yeah, because according to him, the person that's in him, the info is our water, but the name of the person on here is Nicholas Benjamin. Right, it's a huge, it's a 20. It's. It sounds too good to be true. It probably is. Would not rent out. That is foolish. Cause he sent him a link and, you know, because he wants us to, don't send them any money.
Yeah,
Don't give them any money.
yeah, that's all I was saying.
No,
like,
no.
Yeah.
No. No,
Because
that is
we
absolutely-
had asked if we can go see the property today, to see,
Mhm.
and then.
And what did they say?
Well, he said yes, but then after he came back and said, like he didn't hear what he said, but he was like, are you able to see the property on Sunday? You just have to send the application.
I would not. I would not.
Because usually when my gut is telling me something, usually I'm like, this is good. So what I was gonna do, I was gonna call the agent that sold the property and find out if they know the person to take actual homeowners, because they just sold the property in December. And it was fun. Their mortgage right now, according to the 18-20 a month. So how the hell you gonna be able to, that's really losing money?
No. Are you looking for a rental?
Yeah. Cause I'm currently in New York. But I did pay for a. Yes, I need that. Yeah. So I didn't see you coming in, the company. I can't do that, I'm not just to say. There's not, you say. But yeah, we talked about moving together to kind of. Oh my gosh. Sure. So what I would suggest is, right, are you part of our Facebook group, the Keller and Central PA? I don't know, because you were telling me to post something from there, I don't know. Cause I know you shared.
I'm right by the hospital.
You shared,
Wondering
you
about.
shared the Keller thing, but then, yeah, I didn't know how to, what is had Keller Williams, that we heard of. So I liked it, does that mean I'm part of it?
Okay, so I want you to look for a group. That's our page, that's our public page, but we have a private group.
So if, I thought this was it, I requested that I followed it.
Right, anytime. There's always something doing, you know? Yeah. Yeah. $1,000 on the ground. I know.
And you would have to.
I just sent the invite. Let me
No,
know.
I don't know. I haven't had children here.
That's what you were talking about, posting.
So,
Yep.
and maybe.
And then I did find like a great property for my buyer.
Yeah.
Not too long to,
Than I was.
I said,
So, of course,
Different buyer, and then I also, the one that's going to the big one before, that was kind of off the market because.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 4 open house signs.
Well, maybe around like the back of the market.
Okay.
Well, he's out of the country. But I'm not, I'm like, I need to get that,
All right, so I just, approved you to join the group.
Okay,
Get
okay.
there as soon as you can.
So that group,
Hey, this is where I could post stuff in.
this is just our agent.
Okay.
So it's not public page, it's just for the people that you were in with today.
Okay.
We all belong to this group on Facebook.
Yeah,
And you can say, I'm looking for a rental for, $1,800 in
course.
the Almostown area. Does anybody know? of any?
okay, all right.
And so that way, if any of our agents have anything, or if they know of anything coming up, then they can point you in the right direction. But that's a really, really good group,
Right. I
to
mean,
keep up on.
okay.
She'll need a reprieve. And if it's not with me, that's fine, but I would love to, just kind of have like the 4 of us go out to, 113 Social or over to.
Should I go out
Pitt
around
Street or,
8 beyond?
Yeah.
Cafe Brew.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but I would say, the more you can put in there, the better.
Everything's good, he's good. Yeah, he's good, we're all dying to meet. I can't imagine now, like hearing, did you hear about, TV is going around? Not here,
That's good.
but, yeah, isn't it?
All right,
Yeah, so thank you. Of course, of course. So, maybe. They might do little breaks and then wait 3 days and then.
I didn't get one.
Yeah.
You actually, I would love one for the. And I could have, I took the wire like this. I started looking
I was watching.
Tell.
So I took 2 little nuggets for today and I'm trying to write this down.
That makes me happy. I'll find it.
makes me happy.
I don't wanna alarm you.
Actually, I took 3 little nuggets because now I know about, like, I don't have to worry about the